IVM.
So he's more of my bitch than my best friend.
बेस्ट फ्रेंड
Of
डेढ़
course,
दो
yeah,
साल
yeah,
पहले
yeah,
शूट
yeah.
करते हैं फिर चल दिमाग
हाँ.
से उतर जाते हैं,
Yeah.
you know. But I actually saw this YouTube video of somebody. I can't take their name because फिर ऐसे थोड़ा death threats type के आने लगे. But off camera मैं आपको बताऊँ.
Sure.
उस एक साल में बहुत सारे ऐसे अलग अलग है, ट्यूबलाइट, टूथपेस्ट, चड्डी, बने सब कुछ के लिए मैं ऑडिशन किया. कुछ नहीं मिला मेरे को, सीधा माय नेम इज खान मिला,
हाँ.
which was insane.
Yeah. Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Pop Rap. Unlike other episodes, I am kicking off this episode. My name is Abbas. With me in the studio is my co-host Snayhil and Abbas.
hello.
And we have a very special guest with us in the studio today. You've seen him very recently in a web series I love, which is called Guns and Gulaabs on Netflix. You've also seen him in White Tiger and a host of other things, which we will get into. So without further ado, please welcome on Pop Rap, Mr. Adarsh Gourav.
It's a very generous work. I should be here.
आदर्श इससे ज़्यादा सटल स्ट्रेट इंट्रो हुआ ही नहीं है आज तक पॉप रैप पे. नॉर्मली अंतरिक्ष जिनके साथ आप अभी जस्ट फिल्मी गेम शो करने वाले हो, ही इज देयर ऑन द एपिसोड एंड he just shouts and is like, welcome to Pop Rap, it's this new episode and this and that. But welcome to Pop Rap. Lovely to have you also to kick off. I love your shoes.
Oh, thanks.
Love your shoes.
Thanks.
First thing I noticed, I'm like, love Unites, Adidas, Superstar, love it.
Love your
These were
shoes.
given for free. Most of my shoes are for free that are given
Wow.
to me by brands.
Bread.
Love your shoes and your shoes.
And your shoes.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
First of all, congratulations on this amazing success and amazing run that Guns and Gulaabs is having. Loved it.
I loved it too. Yeah.
He has some.
मेरे बहुत सवाल हैं आपके कैरेक्टर के बारे में.
मेरे कुछ सवाल हैं जो सिर्फ क़यामत के रोज पूछूंगा तुमसे.
और वो दिन आज है.
आज है, yes.
But before we get into your role specifically, Raj and DK, probably the titans of the OTT space right now.
Yeah.
I know you must have answered this many times, but once again I'm going to ask you the question. How was it working with them? Because this setting of Guns and Gulaabs is a little different from what we've seen them do before. It's a period piece. It's set in the 90s. It's a very hinterland story. And you're playing a very interesting, innocent negative character, if I can put it that way. So, in a nutshell, how did it happen? How was the experience?
Yeah, the experience was very unique and one of my most memorable shoots. I feel like, as you said, Raj and DK are very successful, probably the most successful directors in the OTT space.
Yeah.
And to have somebody direct shows and films in a language that they don't speak is extraordinary. But they grasp over the subject that they choose to make it on, and to really sort of invest and then understand the place, the geography, the way people speak, the way people dress. It's so amazing to be on a set working with them. And also, like, I feel like they're people who don't take themselves too seriously. Like, when you meet them, you won't feel like, oh, you're meeting like they're very chill people. They're like us. And I guess that sort of lends into their quality of storytelling. Their stories also almost don't take themselves too seriously. If you see, like, all their characters are very regular characters who get involved in some murky business, but they also have a side to where, जैसे रॉ एजेंट श्रीकांत is like घर पे उसके बच्चों से
Exactly, yeah.
उसके नाक में दम कर रखा उन्होंने. Similarly, like all the characters that you see in Guns and Gulaabs, they might be gangsters, but they still have daddy issues, or they still have like some
Massive daddy issues.
Massive, like बस पापा को खुश करना चाहता हूँ. And I was like, मैं भी.
मतलब you want to be scared of them, but then they're like, अरे यार ये
Cute too.
exactly, which is why I feel like all their characters are so relatable and they're so human. They're not like they're not sanitized in any way. They're not whitewashed. They're all grey, as you can call them, and they all have flaws. I just feel like I'm very fortunate to have worked with such directors so early on in my career.
Nice. You want to add anything to that?
मैं तो ओ में ही चल रहा है इस टाइम पे.
I want to talk about your character, Chhota Ganchi.
Yeah.
So, of course, you play the son of this gangster overlord played by the late great Satish, who is phenomenal in the show. but you play his son in the show, and like I was very like you mentioned, this show is so brilliantly balanced between making you laugh and then in the next instant threatening you. Like for example, there's a scene in the show where you're sitting in a police chowki, and the character Chhota Ganchi is trying to be demanding and dominant, but he's licking a lollipop, right? He's licking a biscuit ka cream, which is something you don't expect के gangster बैठ के cream चाटेगा biscuit में से, right? And there are these small moments peppered throughout the show. How did you approach the thing to maintain the innocence of this young guy who wants to prove to the town as well as to his dad who's in coma कि भाई मैं हूँ gangster, but at the same time मैं बच्चा ही हूँ at the end of the day. How did that happen?
Yeah, like from the first instance, since the time I read about Ganchi Jr. and I read the script, I realized that they're actually just a man-child.
Right.
And I was wondering what it would be to grow up in an environment where it's not a choice to become a gangster, it's more of an imposition.
Right.
शायद अगर उसको मौका मिलता
तो वो गैंगस्टर
क्या करना है लाइफ में, तो उसको नहीं बनना होता गैंगस्टर, वो पता नहीं क्या करता. But because it was an imposition, and also what stood out for me was the fact that there was no female figure.
Right.
There was no mother.
Correct.
There could have potentially been a sister that we discussed about who might have gotten married off early and sent away. So like what is it to grow up without a mother or a sister, without that sort of nourishing figure at home जो आपको वो sensitivity जो आपको lend करती है life में. That's nowhere, right? Like it's just like constantly being around people who are talking about violence and about killing and abductions and extortions and all that. So it was that, and then the man-child quality of Ganchi Jr. that really stood out for me. So I felt like उसको किसी भी situation में उसको पता नहीं है कि कैसे बिहेव करना है. जैसे इम्पोर्टेंट मीटिंग है पर आइसक्रीम चूस रहा है और ऑफर भी करता है कि आप खाओगे. Similarly, like a lot of people I remember spoke to me about the scene where I go to Nirmal's house and I meet Nirmal's wife, and it could be interpreted as a creepy scene, right? कि यार क्या कर रहा है ये, makes you uncomfortable. But if you actually see it, like my gaze is not creepy at all. My gaze is more of fascination. कि मेहंदी को देख के मैं appreciate कर रहा हूँ, यार कितना महीन काम है ये, झुमका ये असली सोना है, things like that. So early on only you see these hints that are being dropped के यार इसका मामला कुछ और है. His intention is not to intimidate or to be creepy.
Right.
It's just that when somebody does that, and when somebody doesn't have an idea of a boundary, it automatically becomes intimidating.
Correct.
Because you're usually like always कि इस social situation में ये accepted है और ये नहीं है, पर उसके दिमाग में वो है ही नहीं, कहीं boundary नहीं है.
When you say you discussed the idea of having a sister who was probably married away and went away, is that something you discuss on set or before you start shooting?
No, before. Okay. When you're constructing the character and when you're like sort of experimenting with all the permutations and combinations you can think of, that's when you come up with things like this, because I feel it's an important discussion to have also, because apart from Nirmal, there is no real confidant. And Nirmal के साथ भी ऐसा है कि मैं निर्मल को अपना बेस्ट फ्रेंड मानता हूँ. निर्मल मुझे बेस्ट फ्रेंड है. निर्मल like I guess this is where I'm at right now. I've been chosen and I don't have a choice. So he's more of my bitch than my best friend.
But
that should be on a t-shirt.
But there's also a dialogue, if I'm not wrong, in the show where विपिन शर्मा's character says कि बहुत सारी बेटियों के बाद आप तो I was actually looking कि मुझे लगा था कि कहीं पे towards the end या कहीं पे एक सिस्टर का कैरेक्टर कहीं पे आएगा, या हो सकता है कहीं मैंने सीजन 2 के बारे में तो कुछ नहीं कह दिया. But actually I was looking for that character and I was guessing कि वहाँ से कुछ एक influence आएगा या वो कैरेक्टर एक आउट ऑफ सरप्राइज, क्योंकि हमने जितनी भी स्टोरी देखी वो सारी लड़कों की स्टोरी है. कहीं पे सारे कैरेक्टर्स जो मेन उसमें है वो मेल है, तो एक्सेप्ट फॉर ऑफ कोर्स दैट. सो आई वाज लाइक कि शायद जो एक पावर डायनामिक्स जहाँ चेंज होगा वो यहाँ होगा जब गांची की बेटी आएगी, बिकॉज देव मेंशन्ड अ डॉटर.
Can we talk about the end?
Can we talk about it? Yeah, of course, we already talked about the end on the episode.
It's been
Okay.
12
Yeah,
days
it's-
also.
yeah.
So in case you haven't seen Guns or Gulaabs, spoiler alert right now. Skip ahead.
First of all, why?
Yeah, first of all, why?
First of all,
Pause
why?
this, go watch all the episodes and come back.
Yeah.
But towards the very end, it's revealed that Chhota Ganchi comes out as a trans character.
As
if
a
I may
woman.
say. As a woman.
Yeah, he identifies as a woman. Yeah.
Which I thought was a brave choice because again there are hints dropped throughout the show. At one point, I think he says also कि मर्दी क्यों कर रहे हैं सब कुछ, like, you know, and then you see that that turn happened.
Right.
Just talk me through how you felt when you read that and how you approached that particular scene.
I felt quite normal about it, honestly. I felt like, makes sense. Because throughout you feel like दबा हुआ तो महसूस
कर रहा है.
कर रहा
कर ही
है.
रहा है.
मतलब जो उसको वो जो करना चाहता है या चाहती है वो you know they are not able to do that or say that or be like that. So it only made sense कि हाँ यार this is who I was pretending to be versus this is who I feel like.
Right.
Which is why I felt like it was almost an organic sort of revelation to
Transformation,
happen. Yeah.
Like जब वो एंड में वो शिफ्ट होता है ना, देन यू गो बैक एंड यू कनेक्ट द डॉट्स. क्योंकि उससे पहले तो एज यू सेड कि फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल व्हेन इट कम्स ऑफ टू यू एज अ व्यूअर यू लाइक ओ ये शायद यहाँ ये क्रीपी है या क्योंकि गैंग हमारे लिए हमारे माइंड में जो गैंगस्टर का वो किया है कि जिसके पावर डायनामिक्स में सारे उसके नीचे ही हैं. तो वो जब जो ऐसे आपने निर्मल वाला सीन भी बताया कि व्हेन ही इज लाइक कि ओ ये मेहंदी ओ ये देन यू आर लाइक कि एंड निर्मल जो है वो क्योंकि इससे दबा हुआ है तो वो शायद मना कर भी ना पाए इफ ही सेज कि
Yeah, also like a lot of the character, I feel like the inconsistency of it is designed. जैसे for example, एंड में तो बाप ही है, जितना भी उसके साथ स्ट्रेन रिलेशनशिप है, बट जब बाप कोमा में जाता है तो वी हैड अ डिस्कशन अबाउट इट कि जब गिरता है तो मतलब कोई नॉर्मल सिचुएशन होता है तो फट लेती ना, रोने होने लग जाता है कि अरे पापा क्या हो गया आपको, ये हॉस्पिटल. बट आई एम जस्ट लाइक लुकिंग एट हिम, पापा. और उसके बाद कट टू देयर इज अ सीन जहाँ पे मैं अपनी पहली मर्डर कर रहा हूँ और उसमें उल्टी कर रहा हूँ. और तो इट्स अ लॉट ऑफ इररेगुलरिटीज एंड इनकंसिस्टेंसीज within the character if you realize, but it's all designed. Like and towards the end when it happens, when I come out as a woman, is when you're like acha, maybe all of this is because of the chaos within, because of all the confusion that was within. क्योंकि कभी वो क्लैरिटी ही नहीं मिला कि मैं हूँ कौन.
ऑल्सो दैट सीन जहाँ पे वो शूट आउट होता है एंड देन एवरीबडी, आई थिंक दैट्स हिज फर्स्ट शूट आउट ऑफ सॉर्ट्स, द गैंग शूट आउट दैट हैपेंस एंड एवरीबडी स्टार्ट शूटिंग इज लाइक मेरे को, एंड देन ही वेक्स अप लाइक एंड देन नोबडी इज देयर. दैट वाज आल्सो वन सीन दैट आई वाज लाइक For you don't expect a gangster क्योंकि उससे जस्ट पिछला वाला सीन इज सो स्ट्रॉन्ग कि मैं करके दिखाऊंगा, मैं ये करके दिखाऊंगा, कौन है, मेरे को कैसे कर दिया, एंड देन व्हेन इट एक्चुअली हैपेंस लाइक मेरे को दूर रखो इस चीज से.
जबकि वहां पे जब मैं जाता भी हूँ देन आल्सो यू फील लाइक अच्छा अभी तो ये मारने
ही वाला है क्योंकि बिल्डअप इतना स्ट्रॉन्ग है,
बट मौके पे चुप जाता हूँ. It was interesting though. It was interesting to like have those choices, because that's not the first thing that will come to your head, as you said. You would expect a gangster to behave a certain way, but when you don't see them behaving a certain way, then you're like, okay, this is interesting. Which way are they going with it?
Yeah, it turned interesting because हम लोग मतलब what I thought of the story would be कि जब सतीश सर के कैरेक्टर के साथ वो होता है तो मुझे लगा यहाँ से अब आर्क आएगा कि यहाँ से अभी वो दबा हुआ था बच्चा, अब धीरे धीरे पहले गलती करेगा, फिर ये करेगा, फिर वो करेगा. That scene is also very innocent when you're talking to the police and you're like अच्छा ठीक है चलो अब वो करते हैं, ठीक है हमारा मांडवली हो गया, अब हम हाफ कर लेंगे. देन इसलिए कि तू क्या पागल है क्या, ये ऐसे नहीं होता है, तेरे बाप से हाथ नहीं मिला, तेरे से कैसे मिलाऊंगा. दैट इज ऑल्सो लाइक कि उस कैरेक्टर का इनोसेंस गया भी नहीं है, बट उसको बहुत डेस्परेटली चाहिए कि वो निकल जाए और वो कुछ करे.
I just want to go back to the cream licking scene. Was that improvised? Whose idea was it?
I think it was improvised.
Nice.
Even the ice cream scene,
it
was originally not an ice cream. It was something else. I don't remember what it was now. Also because 1.5-2 साल पहले शूट करते हैं, फिर चल दिमाग से उतर जाता है, But I actually saw this YouTube video of somebody. I can't take their name because ऐसे थोड़ा death threats type का आने लगा. But off camera मैं आपको बताऊँ.
Sure.
But I saw this video of somebody and that person was involved in a very important meeting.
Okay.
और वो मतलब किडनैपिंग की बात कर रहा है बट हाथ में आइसक्रीम
खाते हुए बात कर रहा है.
तो मैंने जब वो वीडियो देखा ना, आई वाज लाइक यार ये तो बहुत कमाल की चीज़ है, यू नो दैट सबवर्जन ऑफ द होल थिंग. सो आई टोल्ड राजन डीके अबाउट दिस पर्सन एंड दैट वीडियो एंड आई शोड इट टू देम एंड दे आल्सो लाफ्ड अ लॉट एंड लाइक यू शुड यूज दिस एट सम.
Right now, I want to go through your YouTube history and just see what you watch late at night while watching gangsters eating ice cream.
The thing is with research, na, at least for me, the way I function when I start thinking and tripping on a character is I don't have any sense of linearity.
Okay.
Like my inspiration could come from anywhere. It could come from you, from a person I've met on the road, from my bhajiwala, from anywhere. So I'm very open to being hit by something.
Right.
You know, I feel that's very important to like not, for me at least, like to कि नहीं मेरा यही तरीका है और मैं ऐसे ही करेगा. Versus like just let it come from wherever, you know, just be open to
So
it.
if Adarsh plays a podcaster in any of his future projects, you know where the inspiration came from.
Also like you always hear these stories, right, कि एक्टर ने अपने आप को प्रिपेयर करने के लिए कमरे में बंद कर लिया या ये कर लिया या वो कर लिया, इतना रिगरस हुआ. Has it ever happened with you where you thought कि that this character that I'm reading, this requires this much of intensive preparation?
Every character. My prep is always at least 2 months to 2.5 months before I start. So that's one of the things that like when I read for a part or when I audition for a part, I'm just like sir मेरे को 1.5-2 महीने का time बस चाहिए इसको because I feel like even mimicry, I don't want to like reduce mimicry to anything, but like I feel like when you're actually playing a person, it's a big responsibility for you to be as honest to that as possible. And it's like anything, right? अगर आपको गिटार बजाने सीखना है, you need to spend 1.5-2 months to just go to like chord.
Exactly.
Like going from A to E to E minor to a D. So because वो dexterity fingers को उतना रहता नहीं है. So it's the same. Now put that logic to playing a whole person. Now it's not just the hand, it's the head, it's the voice,
it's the body language,
it's the walk, it's the body language, it's the demeanor, it's everything.
Yes.
So for me,
Acting's not easy, Snayhil.
हाँ I know, तभी मैं छोड़ के यहाँ बैठा हूँ. Right, yeah. So
and like the thing is that it's easy for us to say कि यार ये character तो बहुत complex था, but actually हर इंसान बहुत complex है. You're a very complex person, so are you and so am I. Like we all have our own set of patterns and like, you know, we've all had a 30 to 35 years of experience that have formed us, that have made us to be the humans we are. So now to understand that person, any person, no matter how simple he looks on script, is actually very complex when you start thinking about it.
This happened with me once. मैं जब मुंबई आया and I joined a professional theatre group, तो हमारे जो convener थे वहाँ पे, तो once he's इधर आरामनगर में, आरामनगर हम सब वहीं होते हैं, वहीं हैं. हाँ, why do even mention? Anyway, तो we were there and then he said go to the blue tokai, वहाँ पे जो blue tokai है, बैठ के लोगों को ऑब्जर्व करो और एक इंसान को तुमने कैसे ऑब्जर्व किया या एक इंसान को पकड़ो और उसके बारे में आके हमें बताओ. एंड उस टाइम पे जब 2018 में जब आया था, देन इट डिडंट मेक एनी सेंस टू मी. क्या लाइक कि मैं एक्टिंग करने आऊँ तो मेरे को कॉफी, एक तो वो 400 का कॉफ़ी और लेना पड़ेगा मेरे को, ठीक है. तो वहाँ गए, वहाँ जाके तो सारे मैकबुक लेके बैठे होते हैं उधर, तो मैं आउट ऑफ प्लेस भी फील होता है. फिर उसके बाद वहाँ जाके देखा, एक बंदे को देखा. देन ओवर द मंथ्स व्हेन आई रेगुलरली डिड दिस, देन आई अंडरस्टूड कि ये कितना फ़ायदा करता है आपको. क्योंकि उसके बाद जब थिएटर में जो रोल मुझे मिला उसके अंदर आई वाज लाइक ओ मैंने वहाँ पे ये देखा था, वहाँ से वो चीज. सब
कुछ तो चोरी है ना एट द एंड ऑफ द डे. आप कहीं ना कहीं से कुछ ना कुछ चुरा के आप उसको डाल रहे हो. इट्स जस्ट अबाउट हाउ क्लेवरली यू disguise that theft, you know. But what you said exactly, we did this in drama school as well. It's called life study, where we had to choose a subject और एक हफ्ते के लिए हमें उसको follow करना था या उसके साथ time बिताना था. And at the end of 1 week we had to play and become that person. So जैसे और उसी गली में, because अब या तो बॉम्बे में सब घूमते रह जाएंगे, so because for the sake of the exercise मैं ड्रामा स्कूल मुंबई में था, तो चरनी रोड में जिस गली में वो ड्रामा स्कूल था, उस गली में जो भी नारियल बेचने वाला, सोडा बेचने वाला, पान दुकान वाला, जो थे, सबको बोला गया कि तुम इनमें से किसी को चूज करो और उनके साथ बिताओ. तो मेरे लिए अशरफ भाई जो नारियल बेचते थे वो थे. तो मैं एक हफ्ते जो हमारा पीरियड होता था लाइफ स्टडी का वो 2 घंटे प्लस स्कूल के बाद 1.5 से 2 घंटे 4 से 5 घंटे मैं दिन में उनके साथ बिताता था. हाँ, उनकी बस लाइफ स्टोरी सुनता था, वो कैसे काट रहे नारियल को, क्या उनकी आवाज़ की टेक्सचर, थोड़ा ऐसे बात करते थे, उनका आवाज़ थोड़ा ऐसा था, तो ऐसे बात करने का, थोड़ा मलयाली लाने का. फिर उनके साथ मैं नमाज पढ़ने भी जाता था. तो ऐसी छोटी छोटी चीज़ें, यू नो, बिकॉज यस आई फील लाइक इट्स अ वेरी गुड एक्सरसाइज फॉर एन एक्टर.
Yes, I fully believe so too. Agreement.
So, Adarsh, on pop rap, we usually talk about a particular theme or a sort of a subject.
Right.
So, we thought it'd be interesting to talk to you about, because Guns and Gulaabs is set in the hinterland of India. There has been this sort of uptick, or at least we feel so, correct us if you think we're wrong, of gangster dramas set in tier 2, tier 3 cities or towns. Are there any examples that you referred to while preparing for Guns and Gulaabs, or is something that generally stands out to you in your mind when you think about this particular genre, if we may put it that way?
No, when I work on any character, I try not to take it from an existing piece of art versus
Why is
what's
that?
real. Because वो तो हो चुका है.
Okay.
अब मैं वापस वही करेगा तो फिर क्या मजा है उसमें. फिर लोग बोलेंगे भी क्या रहे तो इसका याद दिला रहा है उसको. So I try to take all my inspiration and जो भी मैं चोरी करता है वो असली जिंदगी में, whatever I from reality, from my own experiences or from YouTube. I feel YouTube is like a treasure trove of like for like, you know, it's really undermined, like jitne
It is.
चीज़.
I mean, the fact that we are documenting ourselves and our lives more so now than ever in human history, I think is very fascinating. I remember YouTube did this thing, I don't know if they still do it, where they used to do this thing where they used to make a documentary of one day in the life of YouTube, I think it was called, where they used to ask people to send videos of their from that one day, and their editors used to compile thousands of hours of footage and make like a 90-minute documentary.
Richie Mehta had made something like this.
Right.
Told me about
so it was so fascinating. But someone in Sweden is making chai, and then you in their nice little apartment, and you cut to a Hyderabadi chai wala doing this thing with this chai, you know. So you're right. The fact that there's so much of real life out there on YouTube.
In fact, even for Mom, I remember played a character called Mohit Chadda, who was like this, you know, spoiled brat, like a 16-year-old. My first inspiration for that character also came from YouTube.
Okay.
I was just looking for like shit Delhi people say or something like that, right? I remember on one of the first week of like research, when you're like really elementary with your research, and I came across this guy. I don't know what his name was. He was drunk as fuck, and he rammed his car into something, and there was a video of him abusing the cops. And being like, तू जानता नहीं है मैं कौन हूँ, ये वो
अभी तो ये तो फिर वो कम ड्रंक होगा, नहीं तो खंबे को भी गाली दे रहा था.
नहीं अरे वो और उसके दोस्त दोनों देर खत्म, दारू पी के खत्म हो चुके हैं, और वो लोग कॉप्स की मतलब ऑल द पुलिस दे लाइक यार, मतलब अब कैमरा भी चालू हो गया तो पुलिस भी नहीं कुछ कर सकती. So you can see the dynamic between them. So my inspiration from Mohit Chadda was that random YouTube video, who I don't know who that guy was or you know what exactly had happened to him, but I felt like yahi hai, the sense of entitlement that, you know, I could see in that 1.5 minutes was insane.
Okay.
Delhi मस्त ऐसा stereotype जो I come from, but हाँ ठीक है.
I believe these stereotypes have a kernel of truth in them. They all come from
मतलब
somewhere.
Of course, like is at this point can't even defend.
Snayhil is from Delhi, by the way, in case you couldn't.
In case you couldn't tell.
From Delhi, who came to Bombay to become an actor. It's a story that we've never heard before.
Oh yeah.
But Adarsh, you're from a small town yourself.
Yes.
From Jamshedpur.
I'm from Jamshedpur.
Do you channel back to that era of your life before you moved to Bombay for the work that you do, or for this role specifically?
For Ganchi Junior?
Yeah.
No, not for Ganchi Junior specifically, but in general, you know, like the first 13 years I feel like are your formative years in a lot of ways, and I keep like, you know, thinking about and drawing references from there, but it's also not like I've lost touch. I still go there once every year. My grandparents live there, so I go there once every year.
Do you feel like every time you go, more people recognize you now?
Little, yeah. You see that happen, But also like when I go there, I have like a very select group of people, my immediate seniors from school and like people I grew up with in the colony that you know I usually chill with. So like मैं scooter लेके बस निकल जाता हूँ and all the spots that we used to frequent. वहाँ पे आराम से. So it's not changed as such. ऐसा नहीं है कि oh I can't go anywhere or whatever. But yeah, it's nice only when you know when people are like, oh सही है यार भाई तू सही कर रहा है.
I see this. पता है जो अपने बचपन के दोस्त यार ग्रुप होता है ना उनका यही होता है. Like they will never like तुम जितना भी जो मर्जी को they'll be like मस्त कर रहा है यार तू कभी अपने को भी ये करा कभी वो करा वहीं पे कॉन्वर्सेशन वहीं से फिर बैक टू स्कूल डेज. That's always the conversation. But when you were growing up you were like all of us are fascinated by Bollywood movies and we were being fed you know the slow motion entry with पंखे से हवा चल रहा है and ये and वो like what were the movies that you were growing up on and like when you thought कि मुझे भी सिनेमा करना है movies में जाना है were you also of this thought कि यार मेरा भी ऐसा ही entry कि ऐसा बाल ऐसा होंगे.
In fact, I didn't grow up on movies at all.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't have any influence of movies in my life. I didn't care about films. Whatever films or shows I would watch the films or shows that my elder brother was watching, who was 7 years elder. तो मैं 7 साल का हूँ वो 14 का था. So I remember him watching, for example, Simpsons, and then I started watching Simpsons with him, and I wouldn't understand English a lot of times, you know. So I would keep like asking him कि क्या बोला. He would also get irritated. But yeah, I remember watching like a lot of when he would watch like, for example, something on Star World. Or like I remember him watching Johnny Quest, which was like a very cool sci-fi cartoon.
Yeah, of course.
So then I didn't understand shit. But otherwise, by myself, voluntarily, I would watch probably 45 minutes of TV, which would be like...
What were you doing otherwise? Were you a bookish kid? Okay.
No, I wasn't into books at all.
Okay.
I got into reading much later in life.
Okay.
But I was just a very outdoorsy kid. I love to get dirty and play in the mud. So, like दुनिया भर के games, and also because it was a colony of 300 houses, there were probably around 50 to 60 kids roughly around my age. 2-3 साल बड़े 2-3 साल छोटे मिला के 50-60 लोग. Now imagine such a big pack of people, and like you're at that age when and that era when like television wasn't such a, it was a big thing, but also because it's small town and there's space, outdoor is valued more than spending time with your television.
Also there was no PSP.
हाँ, PlayStation नहीं आया था, computer just आया था, but सबके पास नहीं था. My father had gotten a Pentium 3, I remember, in 2000 or 2001. But again, I wasn't big on computer games as well. But mostly it was just a lot of cricket, a lot of football, a lot of riding your cycle, running around, spazzing.
Just want to go back to your elder brother watching Star World and Simpsons. Was there a sense of aspirational के English show देखेंगे तो औदा बढ़ जाएगा? Because I used to have that when I was a kid.
My brother definitely did that. My brother definitely had that because there were very few people who were doing that in my colony. So there were a couple of kids like my brother who was doing something like that. So I definitely feel my brother always wanted to sort of, you know, continuously have make better choices, keep growing and stuff, and that sort of rubbed off on me. But हाँ वो तो था एक चीज.
मेरे साथ ऐसा इंग्लिश गानों के साथ हुआ था. आपको याद है अपने पहला इंग्लिश गाना कौन सा सुना था?
Backstreet Boys.
Same.
Show me the meaning.
Oh nice. Yeah. आपने भी पहला Backstreet Boys सुना था?
Because my brother, we had a Backstreet Boys poster in our.
Oh nice. You attended the Backstreet Boys concert अभी?
मैंने अर्ली बर्ड टिकट्स चले गए तो मैंने बोला मैं इससे ज्यादा नहीं दे रहा हूँ बैकस्ट्रीट बॉयज देखने के लिए.
नहीं मैंने अर्ली बर्ड में ले लिया. तो my first song was actually
you saw the show.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was such a wholesome show.
So whoever I
loved it.
have spoken to, they said it was the most well behaved concert because everybody was above 30.
Yeah.
They're mostly millennials.
बच्चों के साथ आए हुए हैं.
It was done at on
9:30, 9:45 they went and I was
nobody
home
was
at
jumping.
10:20. I was like इससे बढ़िया कॉन्सर्ट क्या होगा जब मुझे 9 घंटे की नींद मिल रही है कॉन्सर्ट वाले उसमें.
मैं actually the music that my brother listened to, like for example Backstreet Boys, right? I faintly remember it being played in the background. But मैं बचपन में I used to love A.R. Rahman. I still do.
Of course, yeah.
So I grew up listening to A.R. Rahman a lot, and I'm a Hindustani classical singer. तो classical की training.
I like how he very casually dropped it. Like
it
didn't show up in the research.
और भी पन्ने हैं मतलब मेरी किताब में.
नहीं, because my parents were into classical. My father. So by virtue of that, I was learning classical, but otherwise A.R. Rahman. Consciously, the first bands that had an influence on me were when I was 16 and my brother gave me a hard disk which was loaded with like all the 70s, 80s, 90s bands. So like there was Floyd, Zepp, Sex Pistols and like Def Leppard and all these bands. So like I remember कि consciously मेरे को जो पसंद आने लगा English music, that was Pink Floyd. Dark Side of the Moon, the album, and like Pigs and
Wish You Were Here on the Wall. Animals.
So those two albums I remember having like a profound impact on me. तो उसके पहले गिन चुन के 5 इंग्लिश गाने आते थे.
मेरा पहला इंग्लिश गाना था स्मैक दैट. मेरे भाई ने एक और मेरे भाई ने सुनाया था. Yeah, and I was मेरा भाई ना नया वूफर लेकर आया था.
Did you understand what the
No, that's what. Now that I say, I'm like ये कुछ और कह रहा था. But मेरा भाई ना नया वूफर लाया था and मैं उसके घर गया like एक डिंचिंग वाला गाना सुना हुआ. I'm like so now and then he played Smack That and I इतना ट्रिप किया ना मैं उस गाने पे, इतना ट्रिप किया. एंड व्हेन यू से अबाउट व्हेन यू टॉक अबाउट पिंक फ्लॉयड, शाइन लाइक अ क्रेजी डायमंड इज पिंक फ्लॉयड. या सो व्हाट हैपेंड वाज पिंक फ्लॉयड से मैं समय में बहुत बाद में इंट्रोड्यूस हुआ और वो भी बहुत I had a Bengali friend, शामक नाम था उसका.
Say no more.
समझ गया ना कहाँ जा रही है ये conversation. तो we were sitting once at his place, nobody was home and he's like दरवाज़ा बंद कर दे. And I'm like अच्छा ठीक है. फिर देन उसने कुछ अरेंजमेंट्स किए एंड देन पूरी घर की लाइट बंद करके एक बल्ब जलाया.
He's setting the perfect.
lived here.
Exactly. उसने सब बंद करके एक बल्ब जलाया. उसके ऊपर ऐसे जैसे सेलोफिन रैप होता है ना, वो एक रैप किया
लाल रंग का,
पिंक कलर का. पिंक कलर का
लिटरली पिंक फ्लॉयड.
को पिंक कलर का रैप किया, अपने कंप्यूटर पे गाना चलाया एंड देन इज लाइक दिस इज लाइफ.
Of course, yeah. And you can imagine he's done this with every single friend of his.
Because he was so well versed with
of course, yes.
what he has to do. And so उस टाइम पे I was like 14 मिनट का गाना क्यों है ये?
Another Brick in the Wall वगैरह तो 14.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah, that was how I got introduced to.
You got the perfect introduction.
Perfect introduction to Pink Floyd.
But I just want to go back to small town because the reason I asked that because I grew up in Bhiwandi, which is 50 kilometers from Bombay, and you're working or you have recently worked on a project called Malegaon.
Yeah.
Malegaon is near to Bhiwandi. Okay. And even though Bhiwandi is 50 kilometers from Bombay, zameen aasman ka fark hai. Jab aap Bombay mein aate hain, it's a bustling city, everybody's on the run. भिवंडी इज दिस वेरी स्लीपी टाउन जहाँ लोग बहुत आराम से बात करते हैं, दोपहर को सब कुछ बंद हो जाता है. If you've seen that lot of these warehouses have come up now in Bhiwandi, this Amazon and all. पहले नहीं था ये सब. It was known for कारखाने हुआ करते थे, वहाँ कपड़ा बनता था, हैंडलूम होते थे, then that became power loom. So we were used to the noise of the power loom. और पावर जाती थी तो हमको अजीब लगता था कि कान में एकदम से साइलेंस कहाँ से.
सेम मालेगांव में भी सेम यही है.
Exactly, yes. So the reason I asked is because even though I was just 50 kilometers away from Bombay, it was this very sleepy, very laid back town.
Yeah.
What is the experience working on Malegaon? Because it's a very similar vibe. It's a very sort of similar place.
It's such an interesting
and what can you tell us about the project if you can?
Yeah, you know, it's a story about these bunch of people in their 20s living in the 90s in Malegaon.
Yeah.
And you know, they're all very heavily Bollywood inspired, and when you go to like smaller towns, you'll see people like, you know, actually haircut, Sanjay Dutt haircut, Salmaan Khan haircut, Shah Rukh Khan haircut, वो सब वहाँ बहुत चलती हैं. पहले तो और भी ज़्यादा चलती हैं. So it's a film about that, about these bunch of people who are heavily inspired from Bollywood, and now they want to make their own films. मतलब अलग-अलग चीज़ें करते हैं. कोई शादी के वीडियोस बना रहा है, किसी का खजूर का दुकान है, किसी का कुछ और है. But they're all unified by how much they love movies
Bollywood and
Bollywood, you know. So then they're like, यार हम अपनी पिक्चर क्यों नहीं बनाते? कुछ उनको आइडिया नहीं है पिक्चर बनाना कैसे है, बस वो भावना है दिल में कि बनाना है,
कि बना रहा है,
कैसे बनाना है कोई
वो
आइडिया
नहीं
नहीं।
आइडिया।
और ऐसा भी नहीं कि यूट्यूब पे जाके देख लिया,
Of course.
हाउ डू यू डू इट।
90s में तो
हाँ, so then you had like these things called lehre and these VHS cassettes that sort of had like these BTS of films. So these guys literally sat, watched like a bunch of that and be like, okay, now we know how to make films.
Best.
तो इधर से 10,000 उठाए, इधर से 2,000 उठाए, किसी से और 5,000 उठाया, ऐसे जमा कर करके कुछ एक राशन बनाया उन्होंने, बोले कि अब फिल्म बनाते हैं। तो ऐसे मतलब डॉली के जगह बैलगाड़ी यूज कर लिया, सॉरी डॉली के जगह साइकिल यूज कर लिया, किसी क्रेन के जगह बैलगाड़ी यूज कर लिया उठाने को, ऐसे एक फुल जुगाड़ में उन्होंने बनाया। नाउ इट्स लाइक अ $multi-million
इंडस्ट्री,
नॉट $multi-million बट मेरी $multi-million
Rupee,
industry. And now it's also gone a lot on YouTube. So I remember watching one video out of Malegaon which had some 800 million views.
Okay.
And I was just like blown away. And then I realized that possibly people sitting in like Bangladesh and where all are watching this, like so reach crazy hai. And some people have made shit tons of money out of that. But overall I feel like the vibe of the city is still very laid back, is still very like sort of stuck in time, a lot of it.
But when they would make these films among themselves, who would they screen it for? And where would they screen it?
For the people. So what happened was that earlier तो ये सारे जो B grade C grade type की फिल्में थी, वो सब वहाँ पे ज़्यादा चलती थी, like full on action और मसाला and stuff, you know. And
because
like
again these are Palum workers who wanted entertainment at the end of the day.
Exactly. कि 5 दिन रगड़ के काम किया है,
Exactly.
6वें दिन जाना है, बीड़ी पीना है अंदर, और उनको मसालेदार मूवी चाहिए, और उसमें they would also like put some like 2-3 sleazy scenes also, कि वो थोड़ा बोनस टाइप का ना, तो लोगों को पता है कि कौन से फिल्म में क्या होने वाला है. But then what started happening was Nasir and his friends, like these people, they started making movies and instantly they were like, अरे ये तो अपने लोग हैं. तो अपना दोस्त अमिताभ बच्चन बना है, अपना दोस्त धर्मेंद्र बना है. So instantly it became like a massive thing. So when Sholay was made, Malegaon ke Sholay, which was the first film that Nasir made commercially, it became a massive hit. 50,000 में बना, 2.5 लाख बना, 5x profit. Because everybody and all these guys are very skeptical initially, क्योंकि audience तो है पर देखेगी क्या नहीं पता है. लेकिन then people when they saw the posters इतने खुश हो गए वो लोग, यार ये तो अपने लोग हैं जो हम जिनको स्क्रीन पे देखेंगे. And now when you see it, a lot of it might look like अरे यार क्या है ये, मतलब ये तो स्कूल प्रोजेक्ट टाइप का लग रहा है. But you have to understand that this was made 25 years ago with almost no budget, and the amount of commitment that you see, मतलब ऐसा नहीं है कि बस में से बिना हानेस वानेस के कूद रहे थे वो लोग. मालेगांव के शोले में जरा शॉर्ट्स वेयर जैसे जो एक्चुअल शोले में जो सीक्वेंस है यहाँ पे ट्रेन में लड़ाई हो रही है ना ठाकुर जय और इसके बीच में, वीरू के बीच में, तो इसमें उन्होंने बस यूज किया. चलती बस के ऊपर से लोग कूद रहे हैं, which is like some 20 feet ऊपर.
No stunt doubles,
no stunt doubles कुछ नहीं. ये लोग एक्चुअल एक्टर्स हैं जो कर रहे हैं, और उनको फिर शाम को जाके अपना दुकान भी संभालना है. They are literally putting their lives at risk for what? You know, so like I guess that there are so many things that are so like inspiring when you watch stuff like that.
We're looking forward to that. Anything else you want to add?
Relatability factor बढ़ जाता है इन बातों से ना, मतलब as in when you see like one of your own in a film or on a poster or तो आपको ऐसे लगता है
अपना ही है, हम में से एक है.
हाँ एग्जैक्टली. वो जैसे वो MS धोनी दी अनटोल्ड स्टोरी में वो कहता है ना कि भाई मेरा यही स्वार्थ है कि हम भी खेलना चाहते थे, अपने में टैलेंट नहीं था, ये खेल गया तो हमें लगेगा कि थोड़ा बहुत हम भी खेल गए. तो बस वही वो एक रिलेटेबिलिटी फैक्टर आ जाता है बहुत ज़्यादा, एंड स्पेशली विद फिल्म्स, क्योंकि हमें जिस तरीके से फिल्म्स पोर्ट्रे किया जाता है वो ऐसा लगता है कि एक ये ऐसा वर्ल्ड है जहाँ का गेटवे मिलना ही बड़ा मुश्किल है. तो जब वहाँ तक अपना ही कोई पहुँच जाता है एंड देन वी आर लाइक कि हाँ ये क्रॉस कर गया वो वाला गेटवे.
कमाल की बात ये है कि नासिर शेख, आई एम प्लेइंग नासिर, द डायरेक्टर हु सॉर्ट ऑफ डायरेक्टेड मालेगांव के शोले एंड डायरेक्टेड अ बंच ऑफ अदर स्टफ. ही स्टॉप्ड डायरेक्टिंग एंड ही डायरेक्टेड मालेगांव का चिंटू करके एक बहुत फेमस शो आता है सब टीवी पे, जिसके मल्टीपल सीजन बने. उस नासिर भाई नहीं बनाया. अच्छा. तो उसके 4-5 सीजन बनाए एंड देन ही स्टॉप्ड मेकिंग because of whatever XYZ reasons. And then when I got to know, I was like, yeah, what is the best way to get to know this person? So I went to Malegaon.
Oh, okay.
And this was 1.5-2 months before the shoot, and I lived there for 2 weeks. And then while I was there, me and Nasir bhai would spend like the whole day together. I would just shadow him, follow him, go meet his friends, his family, whatever. तो मैंने नासिर भाई को बोला, नासिर भाई वापस पिक्चर बनाओ ना. बोले नहीं यार अभी कैसे. बोला नहीं यार बनाओ मैं फंड करूंगा. So then I put up some money and I convinced him to direct a short film.
Wow.
And I also assisted him and shot my own BTS while assisting him. So then I got him to direct a film for YouTube, right? Which is like a 10-minute bizarre short film, no head or tail, right? Because he's also coming to direct after 10 years. And
Correct.
मेरे को लगा कि मुझसे what I will understand is how this person is on set, because everybody has that alter ego, na, that sort of suddenly comes to play when you're at work. That duality aspect. So I wanted that. I didn't get that because now this man is a former shadow of himself.
Of course.
In his 20s, he was raging with hormones and like, you know, jazbat
Passion,
and सब कि पिक्चर बनाऊंगा दुनिया बदलूंगा. अब वो नहीं है उनमें. अब ठंडे हो गए हैं, बच्चे बड़े हो गए हैं, फैमिली है, जो भी है, प्रॉब्लम्स है, नहीं है. So मेरे को जो लगा वो मेरे को नहीं मिला. But that whole experience only of just like being able to do this was so amazing. And then the kind of people who I met while, you know, making this, the actors that he cast, the locations that we shot in, the way we got like जो 10 मिनट की शॉर्ट फिल्म है बट उसमें भी आपको कुछ बेसिक चीजें चाहिए ना. तो जाके साइकिल लेना है, टूटी फूटी साइकिल, वहाँ पे उनको फॉलो करके देखना कि कैसे नेगोशिएट कर रहे हैं. लाइक ऑल दीज थिंग्स गिव you an idea about how this man would have been 25 years ago or 30 years ago. And the point is not to accurately portray him, because how many people realistically know Nasir? Of course. You know, like I wish more people did. But at the end of the day, he's a man just trying to, you know, live his life in Malegaon. But it's the spirit of that man, and it's the spirit of the city that I feel needs to be communicated effectively, which is why this was a very interesting exercise.
Was there any skepticism when you approached Nasir कि मैं actor हूँ, मैं ऐसे role play कर रहा हूँ? Were you very honest with him?
I was very honest. He was more than happy to help me.
Okay.
Yeah. He is very happy that something like this is being made, and like, you know, Malegaon is being put on the map. Hopefully it will when the film comes out. And he was more than happy. All his friends were more than happy to tell me stories. They were like so excited to share all these things that they went, because it's also kind of like 25 साल पहले हुआ ना. So now all of them personally have moved on with their lives.
Of course.
कोई बना रहा है, कोई नहीं बना रहा है. लेकिन for them to meet an outsider and then sort of
relive those days जब तुम वो कहानियां सुना रहे हो साथ में.
और मेरे को उन्होंने बैठ के वो सब BTS दिखाया जो उन्होंने एक्चुअल मालेगांव के शोले के टाइम उनके पास, you know, CDs में
of course
है. It was gold, man. Like the kind of footage that I saw is amazing.
Wow. What do you want to wrap up with?
मुझे wrap up तो हो जाएगा. मुझे बस एक सवाल आपसे as a budding actor या जो भी कह लो, मुझे बस ऐसे पूछना था कि आपका पहला ऑडिशन स्टोरी जानना था मुझे मतलब I love to know audition stories of people.
मेरे को याद भी नहीं है मेरा पहला ऑडिशन स्टोरी. मेरे को ये पता है कि मैंने 1 साल ऑडिशंस दिए थे. माय नेम इज खान मुझे मिला था 2009.
Of course, we didn't even mention you played the kid version
young
of Shah Rukh Khan.
Yes.
So I started auditioning somewhere in the summer of 2008, and I got My Name Is Khan in the summer of 2009. So now between that gap, there were a lot of auditions that had happened for all kinds of things. Toothpaste.
How old were you at that time?
My Name Is Khan का जब शूट किया मैं 14 का था.
Okay.
Now I'm 29. So हाँ 15 साल
almost
almost 15 years.
Half a decade and a half ago.
Yes.
So between cracking that audition and starting there was 1 year. उस 1 साल में बहुत सारे ऐसे अलग अलग है. ट्यूबलाइट, टूथपेस्ट, चड्डी, बने सब कुछ के लिए मैं ऑडिशन किया. कुछ नहीं मिला मेरे को. सीधा My Name Is Khan मिला, which was insane. और उसमें भी क्या था, interesting bit is that I had actually auditioned for Shah Rukh's son.
Okay.
So a few months before I got this audition, some 2 months ago, I had actually gotten a call for Shah Rukh to play Shah Rukh's son for the audition for that. And I remember going with my father to Carter Road. हम लोग BST bus 33 या कुछ, हम लोग तब जूहू में रहते थे. SPBT में मेरे फादर पढ़ाते थे ट्रेनिंग, बैंकर्स ट्रेनिंग कॉलेज. तो वहाँ से 33 या 79, can't accurately remember, we took a bus, dropped us at Carter Road, went up, gave the audition, and my father taught me how to act in that audition.
Okay.
अब बहुत ऐसा ओवर एक्टिंग किया बेचारे. My father also obviously had the best of intentions, but what do we know about acting, man? Like, you know, what did I know? I was just a kid. Like, so कुछ तो किया, बहुत खराब भलता. और उसके बाद नहीं हुआ उसमें.
I love this word भलता. I love this word. ये मैंने अपनी जिंदगी के पहले 24 साल सुना ही नहीं है और उसके बाद से 5 साल मैं सुने ही जा रहा हूँ. भलता. Love it. Love this word.
So कुछ तो ऐसा भलता हुआ.
This was still you auditioning for the Sun part.
Yeah.
Okay,
For the Sun's part. And I have a very distinct memory of standing on the bus stop at Carter Road waiting for a bus after the audition, feeling like I fucked this one up. और उसके बाद obviously father को भी क्या बोलूँगा बेचारे. And
But your father wasn't in the room when you were auditioning?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No. Usually they aren't. Parents
Okay.
aren't. वो बाहर बैठते हैं but अंदर नहीं आ सकते. So फिर कुछ 2-3 महीने बाद दोबारा कॉल आया. They were like, my name is खान के लिए ऑडिशन है. मैंने बोला पर मैंने तो दे दिया और नहीं हुआ. तो बोले कि नहीं बचपन के वर्जन के लिए. मैंने बोला अच्छा. So then I went to the Dharma office in Khar. It used to be. I don't know where it is now. And I remember going inside the room, and I think Shanu was one of the people inside the room, and they showed
Shanu
me
being the casting.
Shanu Sharma. Yes.
Yeah.
And they showed me a video of Shah Rukh Khan, some clip of just Shah Rukh Khan. I think they had already begun shooting for the film in the States. So they had probably done a test shoot or they'd probably begun filming. I don't remember, but there was a clip of Shah Rukh Khan, and he was being Rizwan, and they were like, "This is what you have to do." So I literally just mimicked his body language. I didn't do anything in the audition. That was my credit. कि मैंने बस वो छाप दिया. I just understood the essence of that, and I could mimic as a kid. Like I did more mimicry as a kid than I do now. So I was like, अच्छा ठीक है मैं ये कर सकता हूँ. और चेयर ठीक करना था. तो ऐसे सर हिलाते हुए चेयर ठीक किया, and they probably saw some resemblance in our faces, and they were like, cool.
There you go.
Best. पहले ऑडिशन में you resemble शाहरुख खान.
Yeah, moral of the story, copy Shah Rukh and brighter things will happen for you in life.
But it was insane because when I mean obviously I was giving all these auditions with the intention of कभी तो काम शुरू होगा, but जब actually मिला काम, nobody could believe that I cracked the audition. यार वो हेरा फेरी में एक सीन होता है ना जहाँ पे चोरी करना होता है और रात को किसी को नींद नहीं आती है.
एक दिन पहले
वो गाना बज रहा होता है पीछे.
मेरे को नींद नहीं आ रही है. मेरे घर पे वो माहौल था जब मेरे को My Name is Khan मिला. My grandparents were over, they couldn't sleep. My mom couldn't sleep. My mom's taken me down, given me a pep talk about how you need to conduct yourself as an actor, and I'm wondering as a 14-year-old, why are
लेके आइसक्रीम खिलाओ ना मम्मी.
ऐसी क्या बात हो गई. मतलब खुश तो मैं भी था, but मेरे को seriousness समझ नहीं था उसका. And that whole experience of and also when I got the part, instantly I was like, fuck, अब तो अमेरिका जाने को मिलेगा, क्योंकि आई न्यू करण जौहर मतलब ही शूट्स ऑल हिज फिल्म्स अब्रॉड. और फिर एक हफ्ते बाद बोले कि सर सो यू हैव टू कम टू चामुंडा पेट्रोल पंप बोलेवली. मैंने बोला ऐसे कैसे हो सकता है, करण जौहर की फिल्म चामुंडा पेट्रोल पंप पे कैसे शूट हो सकती है.
सेम सेंटेंस में शूट भी नहीं कर रहे.
हाँ ब्रो. सो आई वेंट टू पॉइसर बस डेपो ऐसे कांदिवली में मैं करण जौहर की फिल्म के लिए शूट करके आया. और वो 10 ही मिनट है फिल्म में जो इंडिया में, बाकी पूरी फिल्म सैन फ्रांसिस्को. और मैं उस टाइम तक कभी गया नहीं था इंडिया के बाहर. मैं इतना खुश था कि मेरा पासपोर्ट लगने वाला है, अब तो मैं अमेरिका घूमेगा, दोस्तों को बोलेगा. और मैं कांदिवली में शूट करके आ गया.
Nice, Adarsh. Thank you so much. And anything you want to add?
No, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thanks,
it was super fun.
We didn't even get to you working with Ramin Bahrani, which I want to talk about, but that's for another day maybe.
Yes.
Again, if you haven't seen Guns and Gulaabs, please go ahead, watch it right now on Netflix. It's very enjoyable. I completely loved it. Thank you so much again, Adarsh, for being so generous with your time. And anything you want to tell our audience before we wrap up? Anything you want to plug? Anything that's coming
or maybe do one actor's mimicry if you would.
No, I'm not. I actually used to be a better mimic as a kid. I guess it's just practice. I used to just keep doing it every day, and now I don't. But no, it was a treat to be here, guys. Thanks for having such a genuine, honest conversation, and had a great time.
Thank you so much.
Lovely.
Yeah, that was this week's episode of Pop Rap. Before we wrap up, please subscribe to the channel if you're watching this on YouTube, and like the video, share it with anyone who you think
drop
will
a
enjoy.
comment.
Yes.
Drop a comment. Engagement बढ़ाओ.
बढ़ाओ please. ये सब गेस्ट के सामने नहीं बोलते.
Sorry. Do follow him on Instagram.
Yes,
you
okay.
obviously follow him on Instagram. Do follow me on Instagram. I'm Snayhil. He's Abbas.
I'm Abbas Woman88 on Instagram, Abbas Woman on Twitter, and follow the IVM Pop page, follow the IVM Podcast page, and we'll be back with a new guest next time. Till then, bye-bye, and thank you so much for sticking around till the very end.
Bye bye.
See you.
IVM.